Good morning on this beautiful Monday morning, September 16th. This is the Welcoming Week kickoff. We actually did a few events this weekend. We started off with Farmers Market, and then we had an event over at the Chase Museum where we had artists do spoken words. There's a museum kickoff of art show also at the Chase Museum. We'll list the list of activities. My name is Fatima Diri. I am with the Salt Lake City Mayor's Office. And this event has been done in collaboration with the Salt Lake County Mayor's Office, as well as multiple other agencies and organizations that you will see all their logos on the flyers that we have out there on the tables. To start off this morning, I'd like to welcome Mayor Jackie Biskupski, and we'll be followed off by Peter, Director of Library Services. Okay.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for being here. This is so great. I love this. And it's also a time in our country that's kind of hard, right? So welcome everyone. And thank you for being here today. I want to start by acknowledging the artist whose work is behind me. Miguel Galez is here today, and he is one of the people I'm talking about today, who is truly amazing, like many of you in this room, and is contributing such a great way to our community. So thank you, Miguel, for your work. Today we gather once more as a community to reaffirm that Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, and the state of Utah are welcoming communities. We are places of refuge for those seeking a better life. We are proud to open our communities, our workplaces, and our homes to new immigrants and refugees. We take great pride in the success of our immigrant and refugee communities because we know that their success is a reflection of our own values. Unfortunately, once again, we celebrate Welcoming Week with a cloud over our head, one created by the policies of our current president, who sees immigrants and refugees as a threat to America, rather than what they truly are, humans who bring rich diversity and economic stability to our communities. For those that may not know, the federal administration is currently considering rules to further scale back America's resettlement program, even considering cutting it all together. Since 2016, the federal administration's rollback on resettlement has meant 1,000 fewer refugees have settled in Utah alone. 1,000 individuals who were denied the opportunity for a safe and better life, and 1,000 fewer opportunities for us as Utahns to live our values. This Welcoming Week, I hope you will take advantage of the many great events and cultural celebrations. But I also will ask you to do one thing. Please pick up your phone or sit down and write an email to our congressional delegation in Washington, D.C. Please tell Representative McAdams, Representative Bishop, and Representative Stewart that you oppose a shutdown of the refugee resettlement program, and that they should do everything in their power to ensure the program does not fall short of saving at least 100,000 lives. The administration must consult with Congress before implementing new rules so they truly have a voice, and they must use it to protect Utah values, be humane, and save lives. So please pick up that phone, or send that email. You too can make a difference. It is incumbent upon those of us who live in this community, whether you trace your lineage back to handcarts or a ski trip like me, that we all do our part to preserve and defend what truly makes us a great state to live in. Our culture of being a place of refuge, warmth, opportunity, and love. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Well, as we come together this morning to celebrate welcoming Salt Lake, it is my sincere pleasure to welcome you to the Salt Lake City Public Library. You know, the library is just the perfect place to kick off something like this, a welcoming week, because the library provides this increasingly rare and valuable space in our community landscape. We are that place where everyone is welcome, where everyone who walks through our door or any of the doors of our libraries across the city and the county is treated equitably and with an acknowledgement of the inherent dignity that we each share as people. So as part of Welcoming Week, we're really pleased to be hosting this incredible multi-city art project, Looking for America. And this project features here in Salt Lake City 8 local artists, each of whom are trying to answer the question in their own way of what does it mean to be an American in Salt Lake City. These artists have done an incredible job. Please check it out. Their works are all across the library system. We have maps at the desk. Take a look. They're really fantastic expressions of what it means to be an American. So with that, I just want to, again, welcome you, and I will turn it over to Abby Gaudet, who's going to share some poetry with us. Abby. Give them a warm welcome.
Good morning. Her name is Emily. Emily's here with me this morning and has refused to be acknowledged, otherwise I'd introduce you. Against the wishes, I've decided to tell a story. Against the wishes, I've decided to let the left hand not know what the right hand is doing. Long before I knew lovers pressed lips together in a kiss, long before I conceived in my eye-bound mind and men and women copulated and babies came as a result of it, Emily was that morning staple on my doorstep. The bright color-skinned girl that I never felt comfortable with whenever she held my hand in public. She was that girl whose playful innocence confronted my boyish hair. She kissed me one morning and I tried to spit the kiss out of my mouth as though it was some taboo punishable by the gods. It was over Grimm's or Andersen's fairy tales. I do not recall. She saw something in me. Beyond Harry thoughts of confusion that led nowhere, she saw something. She saw the spark of genius my parents never saw. She saw the daystar of conviction I could not see. Several times before Emily, I had asked why. My siblings never questioned our aristocratic household, but I asked why, much to my father's chagrin. His prized England education could never understand why I never wanted to be a lawyer, a doctor, or an accountant. But Emily saw more. She gave rather than forced. She loved rather than pushed. She expanded my mental horizons beyond the prurient primitives to the amazing wonders of the universe. I saw stars beyond gods and goddesses to a collective of intergalactic balls of gas. I interrogated the universe through her beady eyes. I questioned its primitive conception through tools gleaned from 1,000 encyclopedias. Looking back, damn, that girl could read. She pellucidly elucidated that the diameter was not half of a circle as I'd lazily perceived. It's the chord between through the circle center from one end of it to the other, she said one afternoon, twirling about in the sand. What did I know? What were all these to a lowly African boy? I had no idea where the abstracts of the mathematical Euclid would lead. I knew not where group poets would take me, such as a galaxy of stars, a gargle of geese, a bench of lawyers, or a bevy of ladies. But Emily saw more. She never gave up on me. She offered better books like Tom Brown's Coup Days, Heidi, Hardy Boys, a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, than my father's capacious recommendations such as David Copperfield, A Tale of Two Cities, or any of the Dickens filled with complex sentences that easily conferred sleep. She was at my doorstep at 7, and never left it till we had either plastered our faces happily as sandboys or had sworn never to talk to each other again over trifles. Never mind, she was at my doorstep again at 7 the next morning. Never knew why she was up so early, but she was always there. Years have come and gone, and I've often wondered why. She left me this note at 16 when she moved back here with her parents from Africa. Sweet choco lollipop. I miss you already. I'm sad I never got to say goodbye. Forgive me. I will miss having someone to play with. I will miss having a slate to write on. Find a slate to write on. It's freedom. Yup, she was that simple. Emily stands a tribute to why we do what we do. A rhetoric to the adage, he who regards the weather before planting his seed shall not reap. And at the heart of such an adage is understanding one's why. While what she does is important, it pales in comparison to why she does it. Emily epitomizes that which is worth doing is what doing well. Her name is Emily. Emily is here amongst us this morning, perfectly blended in amongst us, refusing to be seen. She's the universal stream of consciousness that now fills every chink of this room where you sit or stand. She's what you feel now, rising waves of curiosity from the very heart of your soul. That voice in your head that says, I am one indispensable aspect of the universe. She's that voice that says, I will be here tomorrow at 5, not just because I leave, but because I matter. She's that voice that drives you to stay, to say, I will make an impact. I will touch the world. Her name is Emily. Emily is here with me this morning. She's in the audience somewhere and has refused to be acknowledged, otherwise I'd introduce you. Against the wishes, I've decided to tell her story. Against the wishes, I've decided to let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. But as she's wont, she'll disappear into the shadows as though she never existed. Emily is you. Thank you.
Okay, next up, I'd like to welcome Willie. I'm not even going to try his last name because I don't want to butcher it. And he's going to do a poetry called Noche Buena.
Thank you so much for having me. This poem talks about the experiences of my family members, specifically my cousin who fled El Salvador during its US-backed and funded civil war. Noche Buena. After being stripped naked by federales for a third time on the way to Tijuana, after a limp peso slipped from a tear in Tomas's wet underwear and he earned the electric kiss of a taser thrice below the navel, its triple-pronged lips staining his hips purple and pink. After running for hours over freeways, dodging the headlights of fathers returning home from their graveyard shifts, my primo and his friends pretend it is the cold and not the fear. Not the woman disappeared halfway through Guadalajara. Not the coyotes twitch at urgent questions. Not the liquored gleam on the surface of the official's M16s that makes him shiver. Cornered by the dumpster and the wicked blade of the moon, the huddled men wait for the van that will hide them between scrap metal to take them over the border. It is not an allegory or the sermon of a self-enamored priest. My primo really crossed the border on December 24th, 1989, after surviving more than a decade of war. On December 25th, the coyote gifted him his first Whopper in San Diego, and Tia Tere gifted the coyote another 1,500 for his life. The only other gift my primo received that Christmas came from the man in the dumpster. The man leapt out of the receptacle with a rattling bag of aluminum cans and scared my primo and his companions. The men jumped back and then laughed with their hands in their pockets. Once the dumpster man realized who they were, he left and returned with a box of cookies for them to share. It was all they ate for the day. If you want to support the grassroots works of immigrant rights organizations in the community, you can look at Comunidades Unidas, Unidad Inmigrante, and Red de Solidaridad. Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to welcome Cheryl, and she's doing a modern dance performance, and then it'll be followed by Sylvian Bahati, she's the fashion designer.
Hello. Sorry. Before I perform, I'd like to say a few words. This is very scary for me. I speak with my body, and it's hard for me to speak with my words. When I say I'm from Boston, the first question I get is why I don't have an accent. This is intentional. This is on purpose. I was raised to not have an accent because it was dangerous to have one. It meant you were going to get bullied and slapped and hurt. So I trained my tongue to speak like this. I stand here before you conformed. I'm wearing J. Crew. This dress isn't very comfortable. My idea of comfort is bare feet, shorts and loose tops, dancing around the house with my husband dancing very offbeat alongside with me. Most of you don't know me. The people that do still don't know me. I don't share my story often because it makes me sad and proud and conflicted at times. I'm told I'm stubborn, like my grandmother. I didn't know how to take that at first until I heard her story. She was tall and very beautiful. I have no pictures of her. They were destroyed in the Civil War in Liberia. My mother came here for a vacation, a wedding in Boston with my dad. The day they planned to go back, the president in Liberia had been killed. All airports were shut down. My two sisters and my grandmother were caught in the war. I was told by my older sister, who I just reconnected with last year and met for the first time last year. I was told that she hid my sisters before the rebels came into the house, and she stood firm and told them to get out. They dragged her out of the house and killed her. She died fighting for something. My mother, not planning to stay in this country, now had to seek asylum. That was not easy for her. For one, she came into Boston in the middle of November with sandals and a t-shirt and some shorts on. She was freezing. The first thing she bought was a coat from Macy's. She wasn't planning on staying here. But now she had to create a home here. That wasn't very easy, and she had to protect us. The best way she knew how was to make sure we got the best education, that we read all the books, that we dressed a certain way, that we wore our hair a certain way. She loved us. I know she still loves us. But this is a way that we assimilated, but it didn't work because, you see, I'm still very dark. And that meant something to a lot of the people that I was around, regardless of how much I tried to conform. I didn't speak for a very long time as a child, and dance became my outlet. They pushed me to therapy sessions, but it didn't work because I wouldn't speak. But as soon as they put on a song, I started to move my body and dance and jump. And that was how I communicated with people. That's still how I communicate with people. I'm learning to unknowingly step into my calling, the calling of my ancestors, the calling of my grandmother, who I didn't know danced, who I didn't know delivered babies in villages. And as I pursue dance and midwifery, I had no idea that that was her path and my great-grandmother's path. I'm learning things slowly. The dance piece that I'll be presenting on Friday is just a part of a very beautiful story that's continued to be written by so many of us. We're learning to step into our own as we're here. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for those that understand and see us, that know what empathy is. When I walk down the street in this uniform, people don't think twice about what I can do or about who I am or of what I've gone through. I don't know what my mom looks like at my age. I'm curious about her. I'm exploring that. I hope that through my dance and through my body, I can continue to speak to others and inspire those who are struggling to find their voice in a new world, that it's okay, and that you take what time you need and you listen to your path. I'd like to just read a short excerpt from my piece. I think of the evolution of the Black body, the many shades we come in, the stories that are woven into our blood and our very being, textures, triumphs, failures, glory, sorrow, revolution. It is almost spiritual, the journey we embark on. Some of us know where we come from. Some of us unknowingly step into the calling of our ancestors, the ones we know and don't know. My hope is that the people in the audience tonight, today, and on Friday, and forever, see themselves. I hope they see us. Although each of our stories hold their own truth, there's a certain root that connects us. This piece tells the story of my mother and her mother, our royal ancestors and descendants, the story of how we came to be and what we are creating. This piece is you, it's me, and it's us. Thank you.
I think this is a perfect segue into the next person that's coming up. So we'll just leave this where it's at. Next up, let's bring Sylvian Bahati for her design, fashion design.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me today. Cheryl, that was a beautiful piece. My family and I migrated here in 2006. I was 5 years old at the time. I remember so little about my own country, but I remember how happy I was. When the war escalated in DRC, my family had to migrate, and we found refuge in a refugee camp in Uganda, where we lived for 3 years. Now, when we think about a refugee camp, we think about very sad people who are traumatized and are looking for ways to regain a new life and a new start to their lives. Well, as a 3-year-old, well, at the time, I don't remember any of that. I remember how happy I was and how happy my siblings were and how okay everything was. But looking back, my parents only made that for us and made sure that we were not seeing they made sure that we didn't experience what they saw or what they experienced and know of the true reality of what was going on and the war and conflicts all around us. I remember my parents would trade our home decors and our belongings just so we can have good clothes and that we could eat every day. And sometimes we didn't eat, but they always made sure that we were okay and that we were happy and that we were playing. And all I can remember is my parents coming home every night and praying so that we could come to the United States and that we could find refuge somewhere else much safer. And so when we did move to the United States, it was a very different experience, much less than what I thought it would be like. I thought everything here was perfect and everyone here was happy. But growing up, I kind of started to realize that that's not always the case. And even like it was back home, there are still problems that we have to deal with here now. So when I did migrate here, it was hard to blend in. It was hard to fit in to schools. And in my classes, I had to learn a whole different language. And I may not have an accent now coming here at a very young age, but I had to force myself to be like the kids in my class and to dress like them and to speak like them and to be like them. And so I think when I think about clothing, I think about my mother and what she always wanted for us. I remember every single time guests would come over our house, my mom would always make sure that we looked well prepared and that we were presentable. And so I started to see clothing as more than just materials. And I started to see them as something to express yourself in the way that you want other people to see you. And so I remember going to an elementary where we had to wear uniforms, but and I was sad when my mom told me this, that I couldn't wear my African clothes to school, and I had to wear clothes like all the other American kids. But I remember I changed up some of my skirts that I had and put African fabric inside of them, and sometimes they would seek out just so that I could have that. That's something that I feel like is home. And so I started to study clothing more, and every single time I would walk down the street, I would start to notice clothing in the way people wear them and the way they express themselves. And I started to see that in myself, where I would wear long, baggy clothes for the days I wasn't feeling so well, and more happy, bright, colorful clothing for when the days I was feeling excited. And And so when you think about Congo and many other countries in Africa, people think of dirty. They think of ripped up clothes and no shoes. And I've learned that it's not like that. And the stories that my parents have told me and the way that I see my mom dress and my father dress for events, I've kind of started to picture, I started to see clothing in a very different way. When you think of Congo, you think of bright, beautiful, happy people. And I started to reflect that through my designs when I started designing in 9th grade. And I wanted to design clothing that I didn't see in media, especially clothing that wasn't shown on African women, on Black women. The clothing of what reflected their beauty and the beauty of Congo and many other African cultures. And so the piece today that I'm wearing is the piece today that I'm wearing is one of the African fabrics that is very common, found in Congo. It is called liputa. And so it is, in Congo, you will see a lot of people, a lot of men and women wearing clothing that are meant for protection. So we like to cover our bodies, from like insects and other like just protection styles. And so this one would be a clothing that you would normally see at a wedding, and just any other events, sometimes worn for, sorry, I'm cutting off. It's sometimes worn at events that pay tributes to very important people in sometimes, sorry, I'm like cutting off, in traditional events, I guess. So this is one of the wedding pieces that women would wear in Congo. And so on Friday, I actually won't be there, but I will be presenting 2 other pieces that are very close to me and where I come from. And I really want to reflect the beauty of Congo and just the beauty of Africa in general. And I want people to see that it is more than what they may be seeing on media, but more of what is the true beauty and culture of Congo. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for hanging tight with us. We're almost there. Next up, I'd like to welcome Z from Salt Lake County. She is the New American Office of New American Director.
How was that performance? Let's give them another hand. We've been working with a group of youth artists for the past 3 months or more, right? Really give them a stage to hear them perform their stories and their voices. And so I'm just beyond thrilled to see the performance today. Thank you so much for both of you who are participating in today's event. My name is Zimin Zhao, and I direct the Office for New Americans for Salt Lake County. My job is really to maximize the contribution of new Americans, and there is no other way to showcase that than to the performance today. 3 years ago, Salt Lake joined a series of welcoming communities throughout the nation to bring Welcoming Week to our community. And it is just amazing to see in just 3 years how far we have gone. I want to pay some special tribute to some of the new organizations who joined this year. And in the beginning, we had a lot of refugee immigrants serving communities that was part of the celebration. And I'm so excited to say that there's mainstream communities who are really embracing this. And that's the magic of Welcoming Week. It's really to bring both the receiving community and the new community together to learn about each other's stories and the assets that new Americans bring to our community. I want to recognize Utah Humanities as being part of the partner for this year, Utah Arts and Museum, Craft Lake City, and I would invite other mainstream servicing organizations to be a part of Welcoming Week for 2020. And now I would like to read a proclamation from Salt Lake County Mayor Jenny Wilson. Whereas new residents are a vital part of a community, bringing fresh perspectives, new ideas, starting businesses, and contributing to the vibrant diversity we all value. And whereas our communities function best when all residents, both old and new, felt they are welcome. And whereas fostering a welcoming environment enhances Salt Lake County's cultural fabric, economic growth, global competitiveness, and overall prosperity for current future generations. And whereas individuals and families, as well as civic, public, private organizations, must work together to achieve success and help our communities to become the kind of places where people want to establish their homes and their businesses. And whereas Welcoming Salt Lake Week honors the spirit of unity that brings neighbors, government, and organizations together across Salt Lake County and encourages all residents to renew their commitment to a core American value of promises and opportunities as we build prosperity futures and strong communities. And whereas Welcoming Salt Lake Week offers opportunities for residents to participate in series of planned events, bringing together new Americans with those who are born within this country. Events in 2019 included Rooted Stories from Home, which will be featured this Friday at Salt Lake City Library from 6 to 9 p.m., and you'll see the rest of the performance from other artists. Now, therefore, I, Jennifer Wilson, Mayor of Salt Lake County, do hereby proclaim September 13th to the 22nd, 2019 as Welcoming Salt Lake Week, and call upon all residents throughout the county to take part in many activities of Welcoming Salt Lake Week, bringing together immigrants, refugees, and native-born residents, and raising awareness of the benefits of being welcoming to all.
Thank you, Z. I'd like to present the proclamation that Z has just read to the Salt Lake City Library for hosting us and also being a partner of the 2019 Welcoming Week. So I'm going to give this to Peter and the library staff and everyone else. Thank you. Salt Lake is very vibrant because of our diverse communities, because of our immigrants and refugees, and we appreciate you for letting us call Salt Lake City and Utah our home. And so please continue to come out, especially the media. Thank you for putting out positive messaging around immigrants and refugees, given the current climate and what's going on around the border, around the world about refugees and immigrants. It's really heartening to see the inhumanity that's happening. And so with that, I'd like to leave you off with what is on the program, which is the little flyer. I'll just read this quote because I think it's very important. People come here penniless, but not cultureless. They bring us gifts. We synthesize the best of our traditions with the best of theirs. We can teach and learn from each other and produce a better America. This is by Mary Piper. So with that, thank you. Enjoy your beautiful morning or afternoon, and have a wonderful Welcoming Week events of celebrating culture and diversity in Utah.